All right, we are live. Hello, YouTube. How's it going? What's up? What's up? What's up? Hello, everybody.
We're doing wonderful.
Yeah, this is exciting. We are so live that I'm hearing myself. There we go. Starting that.
How are you doing, Wai?
Doing good, John. Yeah, starting these things are always a bit of a scramble. You know, going live on any platform is always a bit of a scramble. So
I don't know why. We had our whole crew was here on time. We've got our director in the back, Bobby. We've got our lighting director. We've got our makeup department, which we've just added. We have a few grips around as well. The interns are busy at work. And I'm getting our third of four producers is currently in my ear telling us what's coming up on the show. Yeah. And the script assistant there is not following the proper script that I had sent earlier today. I did not write it. We have writers for that as well. So I want to thank our whole team of the two of us that are live here from Post Office West, bringing you this live program with a guest, no less.
Well, that's the way we like it, isn't it? DIY, as you like to say.
DIY.
DIY.
Boy, Wai, is it getting cold now in the city? Because I am getting very cold. Oh, I feel so much warmer.
Yeah,
oh dear. Oh dear.
Yeah, I think it's warmer when you turn the thing that way. Wow.
How does this look?
That looks incredible. It's funny, John, because I'm actually feeling rather warm today, and I think I'm actually gonna.
You're not getting unclothed, are you?
Really, way too hot, I would say.
I don't think Gracie University is helping us in any way. Oh, Wai is really having a struggle here. Lex Luger over here. Oh, wow. Look at that. Is that a P?
Oh, man.
Man.
This camera.
This is the pre-show before the main show.
Alrighty.
Well, you look wonderful, Wai.
There we go. Bit of a.
It's nice. I like the blue.
You like it?
Blue works.
Too, man.
Blue works
I like
with
the
you.
Shirt. I like the shirt a lot. Alrighty. A bit of camera stuff. Sorry about that, everybody.
What do we have coming up on the show today, Wai?
All right, we've got Jan Murphy will be joining us very shortly.
Jan Murphy is going to be on the show.
Yeah.
He's got the Annual Chinlock Wrestling charity event that's going down on Saturday, Kingston, Ontario. He'll tell us what's going on there in Kingston. Plus, he just put out a fantastic feature on TJ Wilson, Tyson Kidd, that is a must-read for anyone curious about not just the injury that I know a lot of people are going to learn a lot from in that article, but as well his entire life in wrestling, going back to his early teens and meeting the Hart family through Teddy. And it's a fantastic piece. I can't recommend it enough. It's like a small book on Tyson Kidd's life.
It's like a little documentary. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, what time is he joining us?
He's ready whenever.
Okay.
So we will be joined by him momentarily.
Yeah, I've actually just sent him the link, so hopefully he calls in relatively shortly. But we're also here to take, of course, our video calls or whatever calls from all of you guys. So I'm going to drop the link right in the chat room right now. If you happen to have a webcam or a set of headphones, I think is most important, but a microphone and a set of headphones, you might even be able to do it without video. We don't have to. But if it would be nice to. So the links. I want to say hi to Brandon, Alexander, Jonathan, Daniel Baker. How you guys doing this afternoon?
Wonderful. I'm speaking on behalf of them. They just alerted me that they're doing wonderful. We're also going to go over a lot of news that is happening in the world of wrestling, and we are going to be discussing all of that. And feel free to chime in on whatever you'd like.
Sure. You want to start with some of that right now?
Sure. One second here.
After you start texting. This is a very free-form show, the Café Hangout. Everything is just unplanned, unscripted, and that's what I'm being told to say on the script.
All right. If there's any further technical issues.
All right. So Jan Murphy is learning how to use Google Hangouts. We will.
Our producer is walking him through it as we do this. So yeah, this is always an experiment.
All right. In the meantime, if any of you guys in the chat room who are there want to throw out any questions, we're more than happy to. You and I, John, we just finished answering 40 questions for this month's Ask Away. So that'll be up on the Café.
Yes, coming up Friday, 40 questions deep. So you can check that out. A few news items. Fight TV has announced that they are going to be carrying Wrestle Kingdom 13 on Friday night, January the 4th. Actually, well, Friday morning. It's going to be very early morning, January the 4th, at a price tag of $34.95. And this is I guess, an interesting move. I think for Fight TV, it's probably very low risk, but also one that I can understand if New Japan had wanted to be on traditional pay-per-view, especially given that it's a Friday night, a more advantageous night. Being on a digital service like Fight TV, I can't imagine that there's going to be a huge amount of people that find New Japan World so difficult to sign up for that they would spend 3 times the amount for access to this show.
I don't really understand the play here on either side. Like what's in it for New Japan to potentially get some of the people who would otherwise subscribe to World to.
I can only see it that if they believe 100 people would buy this, there's a larger margin for them to get a piece of. But I could understand traditional pay-per-view where people either don't have streaming capabilities or just don't trust streaming technology, that they just want to buy it on traditional pay-per-view. You also have so many masters they're serving, because Friday night, they're going to be airing this on Access TV, a 2-hour edited version. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it becomes very complicated when you're kind of fragmenting the distribution in so many different directions. Although I would say if you have streaming capabilities, there's no reason why you wouldn't be figuring out how to sign up on New Japan World, which, yes, maybe not the easiest sign-up process, also not the most complicated either. I mean, I did it in minutes when the thing first launched, and I don't think that would be enough of a preventive measure that would send me to Fight TV.
Yeah, me neither. I could only see from New Japan's perspective, perhaps trying to use Wrestle Kingdom to attract as many avenues, people who are familiar with as many forms of watching wrestling as possible. I guess Fight does have an audience.
This was not the attitude they had last year when they had Chris Jericho the first time, and they did not want to put it on pay-per-view. They wanted everyone to go to New Japan World. So they obviously have a different philosophy this year when it comes to maybe just get on as many places as possible. And Fight TV maybe just gave them a presentation that thought it was worth their while. Speaking of Wrestle Kingdom, our friend Chris Charlton, he's going to be part of the broadcast along with Kevin Kelly and Don Callis. And on top of that, for the final 3 nights of the World Tag League, it's going to be Kevin Kelly and Excalibur, which I'm really looking forward to. I thought Excalibur, I think he's one of the more underrated announcers out there for PWG, and we got to hear him on the All In broadcast as well. So I think he's going to be great on those last couple of nights. And I kind of like that they're mixing up, putting in new people, and you're getting to hear a lot of different voices now on the New Japan broadcast.
Yeah, I'm wondering where, like, they, it seems like to me they're still trying to, like, find the right third person or alternate color commentator.
I think they want to have a steady, I think they want to have a deep bench of alternates that they're not just relying on 2 people to call all the shows, that they want to have different people that they can call upon, because the schedule just, a Don Callis can't do every show, and Excalibur probably can't do every show, but you can get enough different voices in there that you have a deep enough bench.
Yeah. So some of you guys are reporting errors, potential Google Hangouts link. I just posted it again. Please try it again one more time. And I'm actually, hopefully, maybe we can get Jan Murphy on through a different means. John, do you actually, maybe we could just even pipe him in through the phone?
Yep, we could do possibly.
That. Let me just ask. Yeah. Do you want to? This is live television production at its best. Our RTA professors would just be like shaking their heads.
Our production staff just left too for lunch, so that's unfortunate. We don't have anyone else to do this for us.
Anyway, yeah, so very interesting. I mean, most of the people I know probably already have access to New Japan World, so I imagine they'll just be watching through that.
That's how you're going to watch, right?
Yeah.
Also, like, trivia note for Chris Charlton, this is a guy that had bought a ticket for Wrestle Kingdom, not knowing if he'd be used on the broadcast or not, and now he's calling the show.
I think that's so
what
awesome.
A cool story.
I think it's a great story, and I think it shows you like what, you know, like Chris is a true fan and a true, I mean, at this point, a historian about the whole product. So really happy, not just like because we know him, not just because we have a podcast with him on our network, but because I think he really is a great person for that job.
Yeah, and he'll also be making his Access debut because they're going to be taking the commentary from that.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
What is that you have?
I'm just grabbing.
Oh, okay.
Audio here. Yeah. So, what else is in the news, John?
We've also got a number of things that we can go through. December the 5th, next Wednesday, the XFL will be announcing all of their franchises. I don't believe one is coming to Toronto, but we will have 8 teams to be announced. I don't know how deep everyone is looking at that. MLW has a few news and notes. They're going to be doing their next set of television tapings next Thursday and Friday in Miami at the Scottish Rite Temple. And they announced on Thursday that on Friday night, they're going to be doing their first live broadcast of their Fusion television show. They're going to be taking 1 hour from the television tapings in Miami and going live on beIN Sports. They haven't announced what matches will be airing, but that's happening next Friday night. And the Friday night show, it features Low Key versus Conan in a no DQ match for the MLW title. They've got a ladder match for the middleweight title, which MJF is their middleweight champion who just suffered a dislocated elbow, so he may be off that. Rich Swann versus Roosh, and Tommy Dreamer against Brian Pillman Jr. in a Singapore cane match. So that is something to watch there. They have announced that they will be. Sorry, I'm just skimming my notes here, but that's pretty much all on the MLW front. I also watched the NXT UK shows on Wednesday night, and there was a great match with Pete Dunne and Jordan Devlin from the first hour. A tremendous match. It's about 15 minutes. There's this great spot where Pete Dunne is fighting back. He hits the bitter end, and he takes the last bit of energy he has to turn over and put his arm on top, and Devlin moves out of the way, and Dunne is it's like his last bit of energy just trying to get on top of this guy, and the crowd pops for Devlin escaping. So definitely a recommended match to go check out with Pete Dunne and Jordan Devlin.
I caught the second show, actually, the NXT
with the
show.
Women's final. Yeah, I saw that match as well.
Yeah, I mean, I felt it was sort of a rather I mean, it was sort of a case where I felt like that match was a little bit short, considering, you know, I think the end of a tournament and the first time.
Yeah, it was Rhea Ripley and Toni Storm. I thought it was an okay match. Nothing, certainly not better than the upper end of the Mae Young Classic.
Yeah, but I guess, you know, they are probably going to do that rematch at some point without giving too much away. Do you mind just calling Jan? I think we should just at this point look to do a phone conversation with him instead.
All right. Sounds good. We will bear with us here as we get Jan on the line. Yeah, so I think that the NXT UK, I think it's going to get a renewed interest from people once we get back to just the 1 hour format. I think that at the moment, it's become very difficult for people to be following 2 hours at once.
Okay, let's answer some questions from some of you guys. Eric, any thoughts on Francis Ngannou's impressive performance on Saturday after a rough 2018? What do you see next for him?
For Francis Ngannou, I could see him getting the winner of Saturday night's fight with Junior Dos Santos and Tai Tuivasa. He's also mentioned he would like to fight Alexander Volkov or even Stipe Miocic. I don't see the Stipe fight, the rematch happening. That was a pretty dominant performance by Miocic in January. So I could see either winner of Saturday or Volkov being the candidates for Ngannou. He looked good against Curtis Blades. It was a first round stoppage. Some people had issue with the nature of the stoppage, but I thought Francis Ngannou looked very good. Also a bit smaller for this last fight over the weekend. So after a very tumultuous 2018, he ends it off on a positive note. So his next fight, he has certainly an ability to get back up into the upper ranks at heavyweight. So I think that that's probably your most likely candidates. And I favor Junior Dos Santos pretty heavily against Tai Tuivasa on Saturday. I think that Tai Tuivasa, that's a big step up in competition for him, taking on Junior Dos Santos.
All right. So I think we've got Jan Murphy here. So hey, Jan, how you doing, man? Wonderful, wonderful. We can hear you. So you're good. You're basically, we're doing this completely like what it is right now. We're FaceTiming Jan Murphy, but we're feeding the audio into our board. You're going to be hearing us through the telephone. And let's continue this way.
Jan, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you.
We have lots to discuss with you. Primarily, this coming Saturday, you've got the 4th annual Chinlock Wrestling event that is presented by Gino's Pizza and Spaghetti. And can you let our listeners know a bit about the history of this event and also what you have planned for Saturday's show?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the history of the event is I played a small role 3 years ago in putting together 2 people who wanted to do some kind of a charitable event around Christmas. It was a promoter from another city and someone I knew. About 3 weeks out, the promoter decided he wasn't going to do it anymore. So I was driving back from House of Hardcore, actually, in New York when I got the call. So that's a 7-hour drive. From the time I got the call to the time I got home, I had called Ron Hutchison, Jimmy Corderas, Spenny, my partner in Chinlock, Justin. We put together a show in the 7-hour drive home in less than 3 weeks. We had a lot of fun doing it. We raised a little bit of money the first year for a charity called Hands of Hope. Got to be all in. None of this, portions of or proceeds from. It's all, my shows are all 100% charitable. And we've just grown it since then. This is our 4th. Year 2, we started bringing in, legends. We had the $1 Million Man. Last year we had Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and this year we're kind of stacked.
Yeah, there's a lot of great attractions you have on this card. Tyson Duke's going to be part of it. You're bringing in Tyson Kidd, who we're obviously going to focus upon with the feature that you put out this week. Vicky Guerrero will be there. Maybe the biggest of all, Arda Ocal. I mean, it's not every day that Arda Ocal shows up at a wrestling show. I mean, a great get on your part getting Arda back.
Well, Arda actually just called me, and he can't come now because he's doing a Rangers game. Oh, believe it, of all things.
Man, what an excuse.
So I know. We had Arda last year. He's an amazing host. We've replaced Arda with Nug. Nug's going to do it for us on short notice. And we also have Tito Santana, the Hall of Famer.
So, I mean, I know you've worked a lot with Tommy Dreamer, and as someone that has run his own promotion going back to 2012, any bits of advice that you have kind of taken from Tommy when it comes to promoting, especially at the local level, which I think always takes a different approach than putting out a television show and trying to reach a national audience, for instance? Tell me a bit about promoting on the local level in Kingston.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned most of what we employ with Chinlock. I learned from Tommy. One of the things he said to me from day one was, you don't pay for your wrestling shows with your gate. If you can't afford to do a wrestling show with your own money or through sponsorships, or to pay make sure you have that money to pay the talent before you put your tickets on sale, and you shouldn't be doing it. And that's kind of always been the approach of this show was, hey, we'll raise the money and we'll spend the money that we've raised to pay for the show, and everything above that goes to charity. And again, Tommy's taught me a lot about booking, about surprises. This year is the first time that we've withheld 2, I'm going to say pretty major names as surprises for the show. I mean, one is absolutely a major name. Will be a Hall of Famer in the WWE at some point. The other is someone who spent a lot of time working independently, has been in the WWE, has been in TNA. So that's a Tommy Dreamerism right there. I mean, I'm holding back 2 people, maybe risking some ticket sales, maybe not. But that's a Dreamerism.
As a promoter, you've definitely got the art of the tease down, Pat, I've got to say.
Well, thank you.
I also wanted to note about kind of the way you guys have promoted this show. And I imagine for a lot of, independent wrestling shows, you don't have a gigantic advertising budget, that you've kind of incorporated Facebook and doing a lot of interesting angles involving sponsors. And it's something that I don't see a whole lot of. It's pretty specific to you guys, the way in which you've used it, whether you're posting a video message, you certainly blur the lines, and it's kind of an interesting kind of local flavor to presenting professional wrestling.
Yeah, we flirted with it a little bit last year, between myself and my partner, Justin, who's the wrestler known as TJ Felony. We had some troubles last year leading into the show, which led to him hitting me with a garbage can at the show. That was quite, that was the first time I'd ever done anything in the ring at all, other than stand there with a microphone. And this year, again, yeah, you're right. We're heavy on Facebook because, again, I find the large majority of my following is on Facebook, less so than Twitter. We have some really talented people working behind the scenes who are very good with video and putting together those packages. The one that went out last night was put together by a Sideshow, who also is on our show as one of our commentators. It's as good as any package I've ever seen. He put it to music with special effects, and it really summed up what's happened. Yeah, we've involved our sponsors this year. CJ Felony attacked my personal security, attacked a young child that I befriended who's got a charity T-shirt campaign. He ripped up one of his shirts. He attacked our main sponsor. So they're all because I banned him from the show.
Well, the plot thickens in the world of Chinlock Wrestling. As we mentioned off the top, Tyson Kidd, TJ Wilson, he's going to be appearing there. He's doing a seminar the day of that you can get into. But Jan, I want to definitely chat about this tremendous feature that you've put out. I think shining a light on a lot that people did not know about Tyson, whether it was recovering from the injury in 2015, and a lot of insight into his early interactions with the Hart family. Rather than going in a million different directions, just tell me a little bit about the reaction so far since you released the feature earlier this week. I mean, is this probably the most read feature you've ever done at this point? I mean, it's just gotten such great response.
It's definitely gotten more response than I've ever gotten, more people retweeting it with comment. I was telling Natty yesterday, the one we've seen, it's definitely the most read off of our site without any help other than people's retweets. One time I did a Scott Hall interview again where he revealed some of the troubles that he had for the first time, like very specifically, which was picked up by Bleacher Report and linked to our website, which just was crazy. But this is by far the most retweets with comments, and I mean retweets from people in the business, from other producers in WWE, from a lot of people like yourself who I have tremendous respect for. The response has been incredible.
And was this all one long sit down interview that you did? When did the interview take place?
We had been talking about this since TJ offered to come to my show this year. And I say offered because literally he offered to come to this show. And again, we're friends and I'm very close with Natty and TJ, but I never expected this. They volunteered this appearance way back in the spring. So we had been talking about doing this feature for a long time. And I didn't actually think it was going to happen because we had planned it for SummerSlam weekend and Jim Neidhart died earlier that week. So I didn't think I would see them, but they both messaged me saying that TJ was coming. So we would do it. Natty ended up coming as well. So I sat in their hotel room after SummerSlam till about 3:30 a.m., maybe 4 a.m. with TJ with the recorder running. And we just talked.
I've got to imagine that it was probably just because it was so recently Jim's passing that I'm sure the parts about Jim were difficult, but probably also very therapeutic to actually kind of verbalize a lot of TJ's memories to you, so fresh after his passing.
Yeah, and it was kind of hard because, you know, Natty was in the room, and
Right.
you know, it was very emotional, and I know how close they were to Jim. I spent 5 days down at their house last summer working on a project that we're still working on. Yeah, it was very raw. I mean, the Samoa Joe stuff was for the first time really on the record. And then when I sat down to write this, there's sort of three processes when I write. I don't know about anybody else, but there's the interview itself, and sometimes I surprise myself by, when I'm transcribing my interviews, I'm re-listening to things that, you know, I maybe didn't hear the way I heard them when the interview happened. And that happened a lot in this TJ piece. I was like, wow, geez, I don't remember him saying that way. Or I try to, when I'm interviewing somebody, I try to watch them and make note of, you know, if they look away or if they look down. But with this one, this whole interview was emotional because, again, they're my friends. Probably they're my friends first. So this was a hard one to do. It took me about 30 hours total, all in, I would say. 10 hours of writing.
And how would you say, when it comes to the outlets that you're writing for, I mean, it seemed like you had incredible leeway to tell the story the way you wanted. I mean, this is about 14,000 words, and that's not the length you typically see. And it's, I think the story is all the more better because it didn't seem like you had those restrictions that you had to cut things out that you thought were vital to the story.
Yeah, the web allows me to just write. I mean, I'm not restricted by print. When I go to WrestleMania, when I go to SummerSlam, and I'm writing for the Toronto Sun, I have restrictions, you know, 600 or 700 words to get it on print and in print, because again, there's value to that as well. For this one, this was always only intended to be an online feature. And actually the Suns are supposed to be picking it up and running it as well in its entirety. So at some point I expect to see it out there as well. So yeah, no, I just wrote this, and I knew I was going to write this because this one, again, as I said, I'm friends with Natty and TJ, and TJ trusted me enough to tell me all of this stuff and to be open and honest.
Was the intent to always cover, you know, basically his entire career, including, you know, the early days there?
Yes, 100%. A lot of my long features, I like to cover the whole career, the whole life. I've had people say you should have, you know, done just a separate on the Samoa Joe thing, or that should have been up near the top. And I said to them, would you open your Christmas presents on Christmas Eve? If I put the Joe stuff in the lead, or I write a separate on Joe, it's at the expense of everything else. I think the Joe stuff is important, and I could have written it that way, but I thought people should wait to get to the Joe stuff, because the Joe stuff is a very, you know, well, it's a significant part of his life. It's a very small part of his life and his contributions to wrestling. And I'm fascinated by the Hart stuff. I don't know about you guys, but hearing about being around Davey Boy and Owen and Brett, I mean, they're, to me, and I don't know about you guys, but like, those guys are gods to me.
Is there anything, I mean, being as close as you are to TJ, that you learned about him, whether it was something specific he said or just a takeaway you had maybe in the transcription process, that was a big theme for you?
There are a couple things that jump out. I mean, I've always known Natty and TJ to be these wonderful, generous human beings who have helped me immensely. But when TJ, you know, first of all, I learned what an important part Teddy Hart played in TJ's life. I really didn't realize it was that important. Owen Hart stuff was just amazing. And Davey Boy, the generosity of Davey Boy and how he always picked up the bill. And again, you don't. It's Davey Boy's been dead for 20 years, right? It's not every day you get to talk about those people, you know, from that perspective. TJ growing up in that family, I love hearing about the Harts and Stu Hart. And anytime I can tell stories about that family. Yeah, I mean, for me, that was the stuff that really jumped out, especially the Owen and Baby section. I really enjoyed hearing that about them.
I never knew the story of not only TJ being hit by the car when he was so young, and the effect it had on him afterwards, but how fatal it could have been. I had no idea about this story until reading it.
Yeah, he told me a couple of times that he really hadn't talked publicly about some of this stuff. Like, he gets asked all the time about the Joe incident and, you know, is he retired? I mean, geez, I've seen on our social media since we announced him for the show, is TJ wrestling? I mean, really? I mean, come on. But you're right. He surprised me with that one. Talking a little bit about how down he was after his injury. I mean, I got anxious, literally anxious, writing the part about the neck brace, because I'm not the kind of guy who would be able to deal with that kind of injury. I don't think. Again, with my anxiety, things like that, it made me anxious writing it.
Mm-hmm. I think that it's an injury that I think fans, they think neck injury, and yes, it's very significant, but I don't think until people read this and hear it in his own words, like how significant this truly was. Like, this could easily have left him completely paralyzed or even worse. I don't know if people truly understood just how significant this injury was in 2015 and why he is not going to be wrestling.
Even he didn't understand at the time, right? I mean, like he said, when he hit the mat and he saw a white light and for 5 or 6 seconds was entirely paralyzed. You hear about athletes say all the time that they get they call it a stinger. You hear wrestlers talk about getting stingers all the time. That's similar to what Stone Cold had, right? It was a stinger when Owen Hart dropped him on his head. But you know, even the doctors, as TJ said in the interview, weren't taking him seriously when he went in, because he was on his own 2 feet. And most times with that injury, 99% of the time with that injury, you're not walking again. It's amazing. I mean, the doctor said it was a miracle, and it truly was. Less than 5% of the people who suffer that type of injury even live to talk about it, and like 1% walk again. It's amazing.
Yeah, I wonder if ESPN's going to be contacting Jan Murphy for a 30 for 30 proposal. It's an incredible story. I encourage everyone to go check it out. Before we get out of here, Jan, once again, let our listeners, viewers know what is going down if they are in or around the Kingston, Ontario area, and how they can support the show.
Yeah, if you guys want to come down, we have a meet and greet with TJ, Vicky, and Tito Santana. Tickets to our show are $10. It's always been the model that we've built here is affordability. I'd like a family of 5 or 6 to be able to come for a great night of entertainment. We have a silent auction. We have a huge SummerSlam raffle. 2 tickets to SummerSlam, 2 tickets to Monday Night Raw, luggage, train tickets, and 2 nights of hotel accommodations. We're selling $5 tickets to that. They're limited to 500. The meet and greet's at 5:30. It's $20. Again, it's a donation directly to charity. $20 to meet one of our guests. 50 for all 3. You get a selfie and an autograph. We have, food. There's a rumble, a championship match. We have Spenny in a match. We're honoring Bill Wolichka for his contributions. Bill was in the Rock's book. Bill's done all sorts of cool things with wrestling.
A staple of 14-year-old John Pollock watching the Much Music countdowns was Bill Wolichka, who would always wish me a great weekend at the end of the countdown. And I love that countdown every Friday night on Much Music.
Yeah, so that's it's going to be a really good time.
Jan, awesome to catch up with you. Once again, you can Follow them. Go to @Jan_Murphy. We'll have links to the show and the feature as well on TJ Wilson that I encourage everyone to go check out. A really great deep dive into his entire life and, of course, the injury in 2015. And thanks so much for joining us on the show, Jan. You navigated Google Hangout. We got you on the show. And thank you for helping get through the choppy waters that is the Café Hangout sometimes.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jan.
Thanks, Jan.
Awesome. So there, once again, folks, Chinlock Wrestling going down Saturday at the Queen's University Athletic Rec Center in Kingston. So Wai, we will hopefully take some calls, but
yeah, I'm getting some reports about this Google Hangout like not working, and I honestly have no idea what the workaround might be. So we might not be able to do Google Hangouts today, unfortunately. But still taking all of your questions if you guys have them in the chat room.
Yeah, we'll go a couple more minutes, but do feel free to send in some more questions. We kind of went through some of the main news items.
Okay, Brandon has a question.
Let's go.
Who says Tyson Kidd had a career resurgence after going down to NXT. Who is one guy you guys would take from the main roster now and give a solid run to in NXT?
Oh, I think that there's a few candidates. Tyler Breeze just did the NXT TV tapings on Thursday night. I think he's someone that he's not doing anything on the main roster with Fandango hurt, that he would be someone that could go down. The problem is, unlike a few years ago when Tyson Kidd did that, I mean, there's so much talent in NXT that are we going to give up a spot for someone coming off the main roster and take away that spot from somebody else that we're trying to move up in the pecking order rather than someone coming down? Even if I think that there is something to that I think that the idea to see a main roster member come down, there's value to that too, to regenerate somebody.
I guess the issue is, typically for guys like Breeze who go back up to NXT, they're not there to get pushed. They're there to put other talent over. You kind of have to, be okay with the idea that, hey, I'm going to continue my career in NXT, but this is just me kind of going there to give my value to somebody else at this point. Now, I guess that could always change. They could just bring somebody back up. And I think somebody who we always talk about as needing that is Apollo Crews, who probably should have never left NXT as early as he did.
Yeah. One thing, I mean, let's make it specific to NXT UK that I think they could greatly benefit from is, it doesn't have to be that you're taking someone off the main roster and permanently putting them there. But if you were to say that NXT UK is going to do a 6-show tour over the course of 2 weeks, 10 days, and Cesaro is going to work those shows, that's a real incentive to go to that live event and see Cesaro against a Pete Dunne or a Trent Seven, all these dream matches. And you're not taking him off the main roster, but he's going there to give that brand a bump and increase live event business. And as you're operating more of these NXT satellite promotions, that's where you can get a benefit out of a main roster performer. And I'm sure they would love to do it, to go work with new guys and be in front of some hot crowds potentially.
Completely. I think we actually have a guest. Colin, how you doing?
Good. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
We're in a deep grudge match today with Google Hangout, but it looks like we are prevailing by your call. We can its way through. So
Colin.
How's it going, Colin?
Yeah, good. I was encouraged by Wai to call in for Colin.
He's wearing a sports wrestling
call in. I love it.
Yeah.
Where
Wai stole your punch.
Colin?
I'm from Glasgow, Scotland.
Awesome. Are you going to Fear and Loathing this week?
I am not actually. No, I've not seen ICW for quite a while. Quite the show they've got though. I saw Jeff Jarrett signing the special referee.
Yes, with Grado against James Storm, with Jeff Jarrett as the guest referee. I mean, what a mix that is.
Yeah.
TNA present.
So
I guess all past now, to be honest. Anyway, what did you want to chat about, Colin?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about NXT. Do you think the talent down there are like kind of almost fearful now of being called up to the main roster, because a lot of the talent that have been called up have just been absolutely ruined? Like at one point, I thought Bayley could be the next John Cena, the next face of the company after that match with Sasha Banks. I thought she could really push the industry forward, and they have just ruined her. There's been so many others as well. The only people they seem to really be pushing right now is Baron Corbin, for all the wrong reasons. So I just kind of think, do you think the talent are kind of happy there? Because I only watch NXT takeovers now. I don't have time to watch Raw and SmackDown. So I kind of get sad when someone gets called up?
I'm sure that there is that concern for any performer of how that change is going to result in their career. And it's become such a crapshoot that who would have thought a Baron Corbin would be pushed at this level? Who would have thought Elias would be able to transfer so well and others have not? I would say that all those performers in NXT, though, the goal is the main roster. That is where they are going to make the most amount. But I think that there is something to being creatively fulfilled that this generation of talent puts a lot of stock into. These are not guys that signed with this company that just want to be wrestling on main event, that just want to be happy to have a spot. I don't think that's why Ricochet signed with the company. I don't think that's why a lot of guys opt to go to NXT. So I think that many probably look at, hey, there's also the case of the Shield, and are we going to be them? Watching Raw on Monday, one of the ideas I kept going back to is how much of a breath of fresh air would it have been if the Undisputed Era was up on Raw and all the fresh matches they would make. And they could make that group a huge part of Raw. Now, are they going to? Who knows? But to me, that's something where that's a show that needs an influx of new talent that the audience can get into, and that can think of all the mixing and matching you can do, bringing up the Undisputed Era, if they're open to it and want to push that group as a legitimate heel faction.
Yeah, I guess they've got the size issue going against them, but who knows?
Yeah, and that to me is just backwards thinking to a bygone era that's just not congruent with your audience's expectations of who can be stars and who can't be. Baron Corbin would have to lead the Undisputed Era, of course, and then his little minions would be sent to fight his battles.
Yeah.
What's the wrestling you got on in the background there, Colin? What are you watching?
Oh, I've got NXT UK.
Oh, there you go. Lovely.
Yeah.
John, I can see into these gentlemen.
This is my favorite part of the calls, is Wai doing his background check. Background check.
World Heavyweight Championship is also in the background, and of course,
yes,
a T-shirt.
Oh, of course.
So thank you so much.
Yeah, and I've got my WrestleMania 28 plaque for the only time I actually met you two was in Miami.
Yeah, from our first live show. Remember? The first live show we did at the Holiday Inn.
I'm just thinking Miami. When were we in Miami?
No, that wasn't it. It must have been another Colin. I definitely met you in Miami, just walking at Access, and then I saw you outside Hall of Fame.
Access.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, I was the weirdo in a suit for going to the Hall of Fame.
I vaguely remember this.
Yes, a long time ago. Anyway, I'll leave you guys to it. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Thanks a lot for the call, Colin.
Call, man.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Right. Cheers, guys.
So thank you to Colin for calling in. I'm trying to just go through our news and notes here before we wrap things up. Are you going to be watching any of the overabundance of mixed martial arts this weekend? Where there are 2 Bellators, 2 UFC events, and basically no wrestling this weekend.
If there are any standout matches, that's kind of my intake of MMA these days. If somebody talks about something that's worth seeing after the fact, I don't really, I'm not making time to watch some of these smaller shows live, unfortunately.
I'm going on a rare vacation this weekend, a 24-hour vacation.
You are? Where?
I'm going. It's just outside of the city for a bit with my wife. We are going Sunday and coming back Monday.
With Max?
No, without Max.
Oh, wow.
Yes, this is a separate
little
trip.
Getaway.
Yes, a small getaway. So I will have a 24-hour period that I will be off.
Oh, congratulations.
That no one will notice, I'm sure.
Okay. Daniel Baker wants to know if we have any further takes on the NXT UK situation.
I don't know if I have any more takes. I wrote about it in Thursdays or Wednesdays, a news update, some more thoughts. I definitely encourage everyone to check out the new British Wrestling Experience show. I thought those guys covered it great with so many different perspectives with Martin Benno and their guest Will Cooling.
Actually, on the free feed this week, for those of you who aren't subscribed but want to check it out, but we do encourage you, if you enjoy the show, to go subscribe to it on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all those things. Yeah,
that is up there, so you can check that out. I think that it's going to be, you're going to look in 6 months and see what the lay of the land is. The expectation is that the talent that has signed these new contracts, they're going to get their raises and they can fulfill their bookings through the end of the year, and then they take effect January 1st. And I mean, seeing like, are these streaming restrictions in effect? Because that's a big part of the story of the impact it could have on a progress on all of these outlets that rely on streaming in a heavy amount of their revenue. And yeah, what this is actually going to look like. Are these going to be enforced restrictions? Is this the start of a progress being kind of phased out or moved to the WWE network in time when they introduced a new tiered system? And what is progress going to look like at that point? Is it almost redundant if you have NXT UK and progress? Are you going to have separate rosters? And are they, I mean, how much are they going to be reliant on one another?
Yeah.
So I think everyone has a lot of questions. And I guess the way I'm at is that I think there are some people that are too alarmist over it, and I think there's others that are just completely downplaying what this is. And I think that it's certainly something that you have to look upon history as what the outcome of this could ultimately be, and what this scene is going to look like in 6 to 12 months. It could be a very different one than the one we presently see.
Mm-hmm. And do we see backlash against it? Do we see more support for the independents, regardless of what the talent is going to be that are going to appear for, with them, considering just, loyalty from their audience?
Well, I also look at what is the ultimate plan for NXT UK. Is it to introduce more touring so that you are getting more dates for these guys? Because you're definitely going to cut down on what they can do if they're restricted by promotions they can go to, and how attractive these guys are. If you can't stream their match, for instance, then that's not a big incentive to be booking some of these guys if you can't fully market them. So how are you going to make up some of these dates, for instance? And I don't know if touring, doing big tours are going to be successful or not for them. That's the hope, but I don't know if the market will sustain that.
One last thing before we go.
The categories.
Our best and worst of 2018 categories. I actually have the form up here, and we can choose to go through them.
Do you have the list?
I do have the list.
Okay, well, why don't you run through them?
So let me do a quick little screen share here for all of you guys. All right. Screen share. Boom. Boom. All righty. So what you're looking at right now is Post Wrestling's best and worst of 2018 form. We are going to do our best and worst of shows a little later on this year to be released in the end of December.
Yes, we're going to be announced. Let me get the exact dates here that the shows are going to be going out on, because there's just way too many dates to remember here. So best of 2018 will be dropping Friday, December the 21st.
Yep. And
the worst of show will be out Friday, December the 28th.
Okay, wonderful. And as such, this year, aside from you, me, Davey Portman, and Braden Harrington being on the show to give our picks, we are also opening up to all of you because we want to know what you guys think.
Yes.
In addition,
you are going to be in the 5th seat, and the top vote getter in all of the categories will be announced as well.
Okay, so I'm showing everybody right now the form, which all of you guys can enter your entries in. The link will be postwrestling.com/best-worst-2018, best worst 2018.
So technically you can go vote now if you want.
You could go vote.
I think people are going to take some time putting their lists together.
I mean, I'll even throw the button up on the website at some point, but postwrestling.com/best-worst-18. And let's just take you through the form very simply. I'm going to sign up postwrestling.com. And all right, so our first category is, first of all, for the best of 2018. We are asking you to pick your best wrestler male, best wrestler female, best tag team, best promotion, best feud, men's match of the year, and we ask that you specifically state which wrestler versus which wrestler at which event. So, for example, this. The women's match of the year, best on the mic, best character. Feel free to elaborate if you need to kind of.
Yeah, I mean, with best character, I think that's fairly self-explanatory.
Like best gimmick or best personality.
Yeah, I think it encompasses all of that. I don't know if you'd vote for a Seth Rollins as best character, but maybe you will. Maybe you just like. I think that's a very widely interpreted, and however you want to interpret that is fine. If you want to rely more on a gimmick-heavy wrestler, that's fine. If you want to just a personality, that's fine as well. But that's and best on the mic. We're looking for not a specific promo, but someone that's consistently been a great promo all year long.
Best talker.
Yeah. So Dean Ambrose is not.
Oh, unless you loved Dean Ambrose.
That's no one.
Best,
I'm coming off of Raw, so that's been a tough one.
Best broadcaster, which encompasses announcers, commentators, even hosts, if we choose, right?
Yeah, I think we don't have to limit it to calling matches or being on the broadcast team. It could also be if you want to choose a Charlie Caruso, that's fine too.
Best event kind of speaks for itself.
Yep.
Best wrestling TV show. So this is weekly episodic TV show.
Yeah, and yeah, I know it says TV, but I mean that can incorporate, like, if it's a digital show, a weekly show. I think people know what that means.
Does it encompass things like being the elite? Does that count?
Yeah,
it does. Okay.
Yeah. If it's weekly, I think that should count. I don't want one-offs like a 24 episode or something. That would be something different. Best
wrestling TV episode. That might be where.
Yeah, that's a specific episode. So if you want to choose the Exorcism edition of Being the Elite with Cody, a specific episode, maybe there's a particular edition of Impact.
So can we choose a Chronicle? Can we choose a 24 for this?
Yeah.
Category?
Yeah, that can be just an individual show.
Got it. Best book, wrestling or combat sport related, speaks for itself. Best digital series.
Yeah, so that can be, if we're talking about a series, like that's where maybe you want to list 24 or Chronicle or Being the Elite, just a series as a whole. The other one, we're looking for a specific episode in the series.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, best music, entrance, or pay-per-view theme. Any of the music that was released this year, like for instance, we can't pick a theme song that was, that was already existing, or can we? When it comes to best music,
I feel people can vote for whatever.
Can I choose like Shinsuke Nakamura's theme, even though it came out 3 years?
The new one didn't. The new one's this year.
That's true.
Yeah.
So are we saying
I'm fine with anyone if you want to pick whatever your favorite
whatever
is.
you want. MJ. Pick MJ.
Yeah, not a wrestling theme.
Well, not yet. Best piece of merchandise. This is a new category. And for me, like I think going all in this year, seeing exactly how big of an industry t-shirts are to professional wrestling, I think a lot of us probably have our favorite choices for best t-shirts, or maybe even best I don't know, weird piece of memorabilia. This is just more of
I like this category because I'm curious if people are going to go with like what's the best selling. That's their determination of the best, or is it just an aesthetically pleasing piece of merchandise?
I'm kind of curious to see if we'll get sort of a unanimous vote either way, but I'm kind of curious to hear what people choose as best merchandise. Best celebrity involvement.
Yeah, if any. Maybe this is Stephen Amell's category.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who else.
David Arquette.
He
would count.
Go.
I mean,
if not best, then maybe the other.
Yeah, could be as well.
Angle of the year.
Yes, a specific angle that we shot. Charlotte attacking Ronda Rousey.
We're talking a segment, like or a story.
Yeah. I think angle differentiates from storyline. Angle is like a specific event. Dean Ambrose attacking Seth Rollins. The turn. That would be the angle.
It would also encompass the fallout from that specific incident. Yeah. Okay. Most improved performer, self-explanatory. Best social media account. That's also a new one that we incorporated this year. And I have a feeling I know who might.
John Cena's Instagram.
Or it could be that, yes. Best podcast not on the Post Wrestling Network.
Yeah, we don't want vanity. So whatever your favorite podcast is outside of Post Wrestling.
Yeah. Curious to hear everybody's votes for that too. Best interview, and this can either be a podcast interview, YouTube interview, or any other media outlet, maybe even print.
Yeah, I think this is open to just any kind of interview, not a promo on TV, but just like a media interview, whether it's on a podcast or anywhere.
One specific interview.
One specific interview.
Undertaker with the
the Reverend. Yeah. That would count.
And finally, biggest story of the year.
There's no shortage of ones this year.
Yeah. All right. So Post Wrestling's worst of, and these are very much just kind of the reverse of the others. Worst wrestler male, worst wrestler female, worst tag team, worst promotion, worst feud, worst men's match of the year, worst women's match of the year, worst on the mic, worst character, worst broadcaster, worst event, worst wrestling TV show, worst wrestling TV episode, worst music, worst piece of merchandise. I'm kind of interested to hear that too. Worst celebrity involvement, worst angle of the year. And instead of a big most improved, we want to ask you for who you think has had the biggest setback of 2018. Worst promotional tactic.
Oh boy. Well, there might be a top 10.
Yeah. So
that one's wide open.
Yeah, wide open. And then John, explain this one. Your worst take of 2018, an opinion that you had that changed significantly this year in a negative fashion.
Yeah, this one's a kind of a different approach. I thought that if going back to a reaction you might have had that has changed. One instance that comes to mind was that there was a lot of people upset that Naito didn't beat Okada at Wrestle Kingdom. And I think the way that played out, I think in hindsight, that was the right call, keeping the title on Okada. And look what that led to this year. And then the Tanahashi matches, the Okada loss to Kenny Omega. So yeah, something that you changed your mind upon this past year, something you felt strongly about. And now at the end of the year, you look back and you changed your opinion on.
I like that. I like this one. It forces all of us to admit we were wrong.
Yes.
Yes. And finally, your I never want to watch wrestling again moment of 2018.
Yes. Maybe this is going to dovetail off worst promotional tactic, but yes, the moment that you just despised this year in pro wrestling or mixed martial arts.
Alrighty. So, of course, you can again find that form at postwrestling.com/best-worst-2018-2018, or we'll at some point over the weekend have a button up on postwrestling.com that you could just click on to get it.
Yes. And voting will be up for about 3 weeks, and then it will be closed. And then you can tune into the shows to find out all of our selections, as well as the public, the post wrestling listeners pick in all of those different categories. So it should be a lot of fun. And a thank you to our Google Docs master, Chris Engler, for helping us to put this all together for us. And we will be getting all the results tabulated over the next couple of weeks before Best of and Worst of, which once again drop Friday, December 21st and Friday, December the 28th. And I believe, according to my calendar, that in between, there is a little holiday known as Christmas.
That's right. Are we making that announcement? I mean, yes, we're doing a Christmas show again this year.
There will be a Christmas show.
So December is going to be quite busy for John, Pollock, and myself. And hopefully for all of you, if you're planning on listening to all of it.
Yes. So keep it tuned for all those announcements coming up over the next month. As I look at our schedule, it is going to be a very, very busy next 5 weeks, all the way through Wrestle Kingdom and beyond. It's always crazy. But that is going to wrap up the show.
Our longest Café Hangout to date, almost an hour. So thank you guys for all of you tuning in live and for all of you watching in on the archive.
Yes. Thank you to Jan Murphy for joining us. Once again, you can check out the Chinlock Wrestling event coming up this Saturday in Kingston, Ontario. You can follow him, Jan_Murphy, and definitely check out the Tyson Kidd feature. Highly recommended. So thanks to everyone for your questions, calls, and we will be back Friday if you are a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe with Ask Away. And of course, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/postwrestling. This goes up free each Friday afternoon.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Bye.
It's been